On the flip side, when rejecting consolidation and joinder to be considered a pro-arbitration stance, okay, given the risks of conflicting decision, so would rejecting the consolidation and the rejoining be considered a pro-arbitration stance, given the risks of conflicting decisions?
So ultimately, I think it really is a question of the parties' consent. In some cases, the parties may not have consented to something that is the most efficient or sensible way to resolve their disputes. Parties might not have agreed to institutional rules that allow for intervention or consolidation. And in those circumstances, I would hesitate to say it is pro-arbitration nonetheless to permit joinder or to require consolidation. It is not pro-arbitration to impose what one thinks is a more efficient, a more pragmatic solution on the parties. Rather, what is pro-arbitration is to give effect to the parties' agreement. And if they have chosen a mechanism that does not permit consolidation or intervention and joinder, that ought not to be imposed on them. That said, I do think the following caveat is important. In many cases, particularly ad hoc arbitrations, it may not be clear what the parties actually intended. And if one thinks about this for a moment, that's hardly surprising. When parties conclude their contract, they don't expect there to be disputes at all. Exactly. It's part of the reason many arbitration agreements are poorly drafted. They don't think they'll ever need to use them. And if they don't think much about their arbitration agreement, you can be quite sure that they don't think much about issues like consolidation, joinder, and intervention. And as a consequence, what one must do is attempt to construct what the parties objectively would have considered the correct solution in these cases. What is it? Absent an express choice by the parties, one should imply their agreement to be. And I would suggest in those circumstances, a more liberal view with respect to consolidation, possibilities of joinder and intervention makes sense. It makes sense provided that all the parties are bound by the same or related arbitration agreements. And in those circumstances, one should, just as they've agreed to arbitrate, conclude that they have impliedly agreed to arbitrate in a sensible and efficient fashion, namely one that permits consolidation, joinder, and intervention.